Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Hello. This week's Parsha is Parshat Toldot, and there are a couple of things that I want to talk about in this Parsha. I think there are a few questions and a few themes that come up that are important to keep in mind and can teach us something about human nature. So I think the main overarching question that we hear the text asking is, what does it mean to be a good person? Right? We have a villainization of many of the figures in the Parsha. We have Esau, who we condemn as evil. Rebecca is sneaky. Jacob is a liar. Isaac is clueless. These do not seem like great people. This does not seem so good. But I think if we take a closer look, and if we look with a compassionate gaze, then we might see things a little bit differently. So the question that comes to my mind when I'm thinking about Isaac, for instance, as a figure, is how exactly does Isaac compare with his father Abraham as a father, right? We have this parallel language at the very end of Isaac's life that brings to my mind the Akedah, right? We have this moment of Vayomer b'ni, Vayomer elav hineni, right? He says to him, my son, like, come here. Vayomer, and his son says back, hineni, right? So we have, obviously, hineni is a word that gets thrown around quite a lot, but to me it echoes It has an echo of the situation that Isaac has been in. And this is, of course, when Isaac is coming to say to Esau, go into the field, go and get something great and make this delicious food for me so that I can give you my blessing. And we know that it doesn't work out the way that either of them thought it would. And there's a moment where after Jacob has come and taken the blessing and Esau comes in and Isaac says, who is this? Who are you? And Esau says that it's him. There's a moment where each of them realize what's happened, and it's this terrible frozen moment in time, I think. And there's a moment where Isaac trembles. In verse 33, it says, "Vayecharad Yitzchak harada gedola ad meod." Isaac was seized with a very great trembling, a very violent trembling. He's terribly frightened and distressed. He is more distraught, Midrash Tanhuma comes to tell us, than he was during the Akedah. He was more frightened than he was in the moment when he was almost about to be sacrificed, which is an extraordinary kind of statement. And Rashi comes in and adds, it was as though Isaac saw Gehenna, Isaac saw hell opening up underneath his feet. Very, very distressing, very distraught. Isaac, right, we can see, once again fails to notice what's right in front of him. His son, Jacob, perhaps like Abraham, deceived him, lied to him about what was going on. But to my mind, Isaac, unlike his father, Abraham, is able to see the person in front of him in the moment when he's in this conversation with Esau. The rabbis who we would expect to all chime in at this moment of Esau's crying out are silent. And it's a really powerful example, I think, of Isaac's response to his son. He loves Esau, and he does bless him. Not this capital B blessing that he's given to Jacob for the firstborn, but Isaac blesses Esau with the fat of the earth and the dew of heaven, and also with the knowledge that there are some things that are taken from us that we can never get back, no matter how unfair it may be. And he gives his son advice also. You do not have to live this way forever. Which is, and I think, an extraordinarily powerful blessing for him to be giving to this son whom he cares so much for, and who in this moment he, I think, really does feel for and wants to help. So is Isaac a good father? Is he a good man? I think there are certainly things that we could use to condemn him in this Parsha, and there are certainly things that can redeem him as a father and as a figure in this Parsha. And this week, at least, I'm leaning into the redemption of Isaac as a figure. And what can this come to teach us? I think that in our lives today, right? I think that there are those in our world who want to paint a picture of people and groups as either or, as only one way, as only one thing, either evil or clueless or lying. But I think if ever there were a Parsha that exemplifies what Walt Whitman would describe as the vastness within all of us, the multitudes within each of us, this is it. We are never just one thing that we've done or one thing that we've said. It's really hard for me to see Jacob, for instance, as a really likable figure. I relate much more to Esau. I don't see Jacob as honest. I don't like him and I don't like what he does. And I think the challenge that we face, both in reading our tradition and our text and in looking around us in the world that surrounds us, is to look for nuance. It doesn't mean that we have to like something or someone. It doesn't mean that we have to agree or support their choice. But the nuance, I think, is where all of the interesting stuff happens. And the challenge we face is to look at that situation or look at that person or a situation that we find really hard to deal with and be at peace enough with our own selves and our own relationship with God to be able to bless someone and see in them and to see in that moment, the face and the presence of God or the divine. And as it says in Sefer HaBahir, God is maleh. God is the source of all multitudes. God is the source of fullness. God fills the universe and is full. And that's in each of us because we are all made in God's image. So I wish us all a Shabbat of fullness, of grappling with the multitude within us and within the people around us, and a peaceful and a healthy end to our week. Shabbat Shalom.